region around the Great Lakes has been called the heartland. When it comes to agriculture, there's hardly an area in the world that compares.
Everybody, just hold on. I don't know what we're going to have here.
There's a lot of self-proclaimed geniuses out there that know the national yield, but they're all wrong.
Manage money, piling in.
Double digits higher.
So at this point, we're in kind of uncharted territory.
There's a lot of money on the sidelines.
So that was a crazy one.
That's what brings the viewers back. That a boy.
Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, July 22nd, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you get any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area. I'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here were stronger. September corn up 6 1/4 at 4.59. August soybeans were up 10, 12.29 and September Chicago wheat led the way up 20 at 6.98. There were no export sales announcements here this morning, so we'll jump right in, guys. Appears this morning, GFS turning a little bit warmer, drier here for the extended forecast. I think that got into a little bit of these markets overnight. Certainly wheat leading the way. So Dustin, maybe share a few thoughts here as we kick off another session, and then we'll throw it around the room.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, we talked yesterday, like these major moving averages were a hurdle, and I think we're past that, right? How much short covering is happening on the momentum trade. I think there's a lot of things that, we're somewhat friendly in the market that led us to this point, and we're accelerating through it. I think that it's not just fundamental. I think it's partly technical because they had a big short position. I think it didn't really make much sense how fast and how aggressive they were selling in June. And we talked about, opportunities for a V-shaped recovery, right? And they get in fast, they can get out fast if there's a narrative change. I don't see that the narrative has changed quite a bit from what the long-term forecasts have been calling for this whole time. In fact, it's actually been, somewhat mild as we've gotten to some of these weather events that the Euro was projecting. I know a lot of people debating the Euro versus GFS. The one thing I think that is probably a little bit more, effective this morning too is the fact that crude oil is rising back to the mid to high 80s. We're obviously in an escalation phase again with Iran, and we're in a much worse spot, for strategic global reserves than we were 50 days ago, 100 days ago. So if they are effective at keeping now Strait of Hormuz closed, but also the Houthis in Yemen, closing the other strait to the Saudi oil, that just adds a bunch of time and effort. I think they said 44 days to go up and around. This is just one more thing that I think that the grain market's contending with right now. And we've been seeing a lot of people pretty bearish in kind of downplaying this rally online, and it may be that we just get to these these big pivot points and come right back down because we have a blowout record yield again. It's very possible that happens. I just don't see the signs pointing to like this being like a rally that shouldn't have happened. I think I agree with the market. I think it's done what it's supposed to do. Our job, as we've said before, is not to try to predict these things though, and it's to try to react to the situation at hand. And the situation is we just watched margins improve for the average grower that we work with. And, our job is to try to prevent risk. So even though I understand why it's rallying, I'm kind of cheerleading that it continues to go as we've been here for the last month. We are starting to tell people like, hey, be pragmatic about this. Your job is not to predict where it goes next. It's to make money on the farm, and this is an opportunity.
Yeah, very good. Jason, anything to add to that? What's your thoughts on the markets here?
No, I agree with Dustin there. I think the weather models have suggested a hotter, drier pattern, and we've seen it to this point. Any of the breaks that we've had on small model changes, it was never like they added a ton of rain, right? Usually when you have a weather ending bull market, it's a soaker, right? It's $1 million rain that just everybody gets some, right? And the models never suggested that, to this point. So we've seen some rain, and we've heard from some customers that they caught a half inch or they caught an inch, and you talk to a lot of guys that didn't catch anything and they need it, the crops are, as we talk to our customers, are hanging in there, right? So it still has really good potential, but it's definitely, they're seeing the stress, right? They're seeing the stress on the hills, and they're seeing, they're seeing the crop needing a rain to finish it to make a really good crop. So I don't think it's by any means a disaster, but to Dustin's point, right, this is what the markets are supposed to do. They're supposed to put in weather premium, weather risk, as you look out to some of these forecasts of what could happen, where we could finish hot and dry, and we could, in my opinion, drop the national yield substantially still from this point forward. So I agree. Yesterday we closed above the 100-day in corn first time on this move. And actually, me and Ryland were talking about after the close yesterday. I was saying to Ryland, I've seen this a lot of times where in the night market, especially if the funds want to start building a long position, they'll do a lot of that buying overnight to try to, goose the market, let's call it, and really put prices up above those moving averages to make it look good on a chart. So that's kind of what I'm seeing in the overnight markets to start off the day so strong. So love to see it close up here, and get some follow through, and hopefully the funds want to get long, and that's just a great opportunity to, to Dustin's point, get some more sales on, whatever that strategy is, right, to raise that minimum floor. So.
Yeah, very good. Justin, we talked about tailwinds. We're starting to see some of them, I mean, certainly wheat overnight up 20 is never going to hurt anybody's feelings, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you, just kind of looking back at what happened in June, and, Dustin did a good job in the letter during those weeks, but, when you look at the managed money position, a lot of it was, a big long stayed and a lot of shorts added, like new fresh shorts pressing the market. You looked at, Twitter, everybody was comparing this year to 2014. I don't know why, but that's just, and we just beat the living hell out of it going into first notice day. So a lot of this, I think, is just recovering from probably an irrational break that we had way before we knew anything about the crop. And if you look at, what's going on now, I think you're just running all those shorts in, those fresh shorts that basically sold the market from, when we broke below all the moving averages around, call it 465 D's corn, and press it all the way down to 425. Now they're, 20, 30, 40 cents underwater. I think those are the ones you're getting now. And we still have a lot to figure out with the growing season. We're, the thing is too, you look at Twitter, the wine factor is about a 10 out of 10 on this rally, whining about how can we do this and how can the crop, everyone's saying the crop's gonna be lower. I'm like, we're starting from really high numbers. People are talking high 180s, mid 180s yields that outside of last year have never seen anywhere near close to that. And you can debate if that was the yield last year. I mean, it is what it is, but to just say that we're going to get, if you plant the crop, it's going to be a 180 something yield, I think is pretty silly. So to be shocked at, a 480 price with, some uncertainty and weather scares built out, I think is kind of crazy that people are so shocked at this. We're just back to levels that we were back in March. So yeah, I'm actually pretty friendly here. I think we probably, can we go to Dustin's point, catch perfect weather from here on out, have a big pattern flip, go make new lows? Absolutely. But that being said, we've already punished a lot of people. We've already done a lot of things in June, probably earlier. I think the June break was kind of what we're more used to seeing in late July, early August. Maybe we already saw that early seasonal low. Wouldn't surprise me, especially if, if weather's just not perfect from here on out, because I think we're at an average type yield, average type crop. We've got some really, really great areas, some not so great areas. It's not something like, I mean, I remember 2000, all the years that ended before, really 94, 04, 14. And it was just, the crops were tabletop, perfect, green. We had late grain fill, cool weather. Now, can that still happen? Yes, but you forget what it takes to get those kind of national yields, and we're just not in that right now. We haven't had that. You know, we have too wet in a lot of areas, too cool. A lot of stuff didn't even germinate till later. Then now we're kind of hot and dry in a lot of areas. So whatever, I think it's kind of an averagey crop. I said this yesterday. It's not, in my opinion, it's not like a no-brainer record yield. So I don't know why there's so much arguing or whining on Twitter or X on this rally. So the more whining on X, the more friendly I am.
It's another tailwind.
Yeah, that's another fundamental in itself. So.
Well, very good. Ryan, let's switch over to livestock here real quick. It was kind of a mixed day for cattle yesterday, but we did carve out fresh highs in the hog market. So give us a few thoughts this morning.
Yeah, I had a little something for everybody yesterday. I mean, it did seem like we were getting some of the shorts to finally cover here. I mean, we're super oversold, and the board's priced in a lot of negativity, and we are starting to see that still continue in the beef market. So I think that's why things just kind of petered out. I think everybody's expecting a big bottom here and just a rally right back up to the top, all as well. But naturally, beef prices just kind of disappointed, I think, at this stage in the game. So choice was down another $3.19, $366.91. Select $354.23, down $1.22. We did see a little bit of cash trade yesterday in the north, and so far it's pretty disappointing. $232 in the live and $375 in the dress. So it just feels like that trend is still going to continue of lower cash at this point. Futures may be right on this one. And I think there is a lot of people that are trying to fight this. Like I said, thinking that things will just bounce right back. It'll all be okay. But, we just kind of seen a little bit of that peter out here. So I think you still have to be a little bit careful trying to pick a bottom immediately, just especially with what happened last year. This break lasted quite some time, and we got two pivotal reports coming up. We got cattle on feed by the end of the week, and we got the cattle inventory report at the end of the month. So there could be a heavy amount of downside risk here still. I know it's hard to believe, but that is out there. I'd love to see things start to kind of bounce back here a little bit just because of the technicals, but at this point we're just not seeing it in the fundamentals yet. So I think you just have to stay protected at all times for right now. And on hogs, new highs for the move, still looking pretty good here. I mean, you're moving back up to the 100-day moving average, 200-day moving average. So there is going to be a decent chunk of resistance here. But we are starting to see a little bit of follow through. Cash market made it back over $1 here yesterday. 122 up 133. Carcass 104.82 up $1.72. And once again, the bellies are the star of the show, up 6. So it still seems like the fundamentals are doing a little bit better, and it looks like the futures really want to believe that this is going to continue for a little while, but I still think overall the market's pretty cautious. So just kind of feels like that's really where the focus is, how strong the seasonal demand is going to be and how long it's going to last. And I imagine that we start kind of looking in the back end of the market. I think there's some good opportunities from a hedging standpoint just on this move. So hopefully we can test those moving averages, and I think those are good targets for right now.
Very good. Appreciate the update there, right? Link is in the description, but check out the War Room report, access to premium content, a deeper dive into all the things we talk about here daily on the War Room. So check that out. Also, a portion of the proceeds of the subscriptions goes directly to support the AgYield NextGen Foundation, which of course has awarded 5 very deserving college students across the country with significant scholarship dollars here this past year. So we're really excited about what we're doing with the foundation. Take a look at that. Also give us a call if you'd like to support. Appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and certainly subscribe. We're doing this every day that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live at 8:15 Central Time. Appreciate the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good show. Hope everybody has a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is presented by AgYield, a risk management partner of American grain farmers for over 50 years. Looking for more in-depth analysis? Check out the War Room report. Our team's knowledge and expertise delivered straight to your inbox every weekday. Each report delivers key market-moving headlines, critical weather updates, USDA report breakdowns, and exclusive video content, all for $50 a month. And most importantly, 10% of every subscription will go directly to support the AgYield NextGen Foundation, a nonprofit investing in agricultural education and the future of farming. To sign up for the War Room Report, check out the link in the description or learn more at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.